Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, I have a new friend with me, and Tanaya, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Hi, it's so good to be here with you today, Regina. Thank you so much for having me. Um, so, as you mentioned, my name is Tanaha Hairston. I'm the founder of Rise. Rise is an impact investing community. And it's really the focus is investing with profit and purpose. And it's a collaborative investment community where we connect women with impactful investment opportunities. And then my vision is to equip women. Our vision is to equip women with the tools and the knowledge so that they can make a positive impact by investing in critical areas, right? And things that actually make the world better for our kids and the next generation. It's really important.
Yeah, and that is an area that I think a lot of women are very interested in. They are more concerned about, all right, how does this impact my kids? What is my legacy going to look like? So that's a great area to focus on.
Yeah, it really is because we women, we're 90% more likely to invest into our families and into our communities. So I'm on the big belief that women will be the ones that will make the world better because we care. And so as a result, if we have savings, wealth, whatever you want to call it, then we will invest that back into our families, and then we will make our communities better, and then we will make the world better. So that's why it's really important for us as women to get educated and then to get empowered because we will affect the world, in my belief.
I love it. I love it. You're singing the same song. I think we're in the same choir here. And it is true, like as a mom, you want your kids to do better than you. You want the next generation to go a little bit further than we did. And that's a great way to invest in the future, is to invest in things that are going to make sure that they're going to be better for the next generations.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true, right? And I think that that's one thing. I don't know about you, Regina, but I can tell you that I come from a family of engineers, right? My undergrad was in computer science, family of engineers, and being
Wow.
corporate, they just don't teach. Yes, they just don't teach really like the language of money and money growth and how to build that for your family, how to transition it, right? So I came from a family of successful corporate, right, engineers, but in terms of really understanding and educating themselves, which is a very different skill set, right, as a professional. And it really wasn't until, like I was in my, late 20s, early 30s that I really, got that proper education and training because it was not taught. I don't know about you, but it's not like we were taught, those things sitting down. We were taught about corporate things and corporate structure, right? But it wasn't like we were taught. So it's very different with my children, and it's very different that the messaging that I give and that I send out amongst my media is that really it is, we can make the world better. Capital has always been a strong influencer. You and I know that. But that really is a strong proponent of really affecting the change that we want, right? In the
Yeah.
world and that we want to see. And we can talk about it in ways that our kids can understand. So, whether they're listening or not, right? Sometimes when we drive, I'll say things like, oh, look at that building. Do you know what the rent rolls are? What do you think look at this company. What do you think the valuation is? And, they hear us, right? So
Yeah.
we can talk about, things like this, or we can talk about things like that. And then they hear us, whether we, think that they are or not, they hear us. And that's how we slowly start to affect change generationally by talking about these things, by talking about, the power of money, by talking about growth, by talking about investing, by talking about all the things that you can participate in that also make the world better. And by opening their minds up to change. Like if we pass a building, I will say, how do you think, like your teachers can afford beautiful communities like where we live, in our neighborhood, right, in Scottsdale, Arizona? How do you think they could afford these beautiful communities? How do you think they can do that and have these rents be this way? And it just kind of opens their mind to thinking about things, And that's slowly how we do it, right? Just little by little by little. So I start that way. I talk the same way about energy. I talk the same way about um, water and sanitation. I talk about it all, and they're listening and they're hearing. So I think that's how we start.
I love it. I love it. Because one of the things that I talk about is the fact that when we were growing up, especially, these conversations didn't happen. The money and finances were a taboo topic. They certainly were never allowed to be spoken about at the kitchen table. And now you're opening that world up to people and letting them know that, you know what, this should not be a closet conversation, by saying it in the car and saying it when you're riding by a different building or the water factory or whatever. Like, you're saying, hey, this is something we need to discuss, because you need this education, because again, we didn't get that education. And if we do a better job with the next generation of, one, educating them, and two, letting them know that it's okay to have open, frank conversations about these things, then they are going to go way, way further than we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree.
Yup.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree. And we can all start, irregardless of what our capital situation is, right? I always say, by our purchases, we can purchase from
Mhm.
companies that have good working environments for women, women on the leadership teams, right? These things are all public knowledge, right? I
Yeah.
tell the kids that by the banks that we support, and we're putting our money there, and then the banks are investing the money, right? That's the next step. And then on the public markets, right, we can look and see those kinds of companies, like what are they doing from a socially responsible, angle and lens. And then, from a private perspective, right? I just talked about apartment buildings. I talked about water and sanitation funds. So at every single level, we can all be impactful. And it really even starts right from, I have a 14 going on 15, 16 and 18-year-old. And I tell them that, right? It starts with our buying decisions as an investor. And then it even starts, with our banks, because we are all an investor, or even the businesses that we participate in. So we can all
Yeah.
be really impactful, and just think about like what change we want to affect in the world, right? Is it gender equality? Is it education? Is it health and wellness? Is it clean water and sanitation? Right? Is it,
Yeah.
clean energy, right? Is it, let's just like really thinking about those things. Is it sustainable agriculture, right? We talk about all these things, and this impact investing community. And then wherever we're at, we can be impactful, right? Obviously, we need different things. Some of us need, income, some of us need growth, some of us need tax, whatever it is. But as long as we start with that lens, then we can beautifully kind of narrow down. So I love the idea of talking to our kids. I've done some media on how to talk to your teens about venture capital, angel investing, debt funds, all of that.
Whoa, good, good.
Well, yeah, because I have three, right? And I tell them, like, whatever I've done, you all need to, take this and then take it up a notch, right? And sustain beautifully. So, but if we don't teach them, then who will?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody, because they're not learning it in school at any level, unless they have unless they're like a finance major. They're not getting those classes, which is really a shame and a societal problem, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, it really wasn't, kind of taught, even it wasn't until I really focused on finance, right, to your point, that it was, kind of taught somewhat, I would say.
Mhm.
But it really should be embedded, and it should be in our vernacular, with us as women, because to your point earlier, it just wasn't talked about at the table. I mean, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad, had this corporate career, great, et cetera, but it just wasn't talked about. And I feel like we're finally like turning a tide, but we have to talk about it, because if we don't, right, if we don't take the time to talk about it, and we're just kind of, blindly, giving or whatever we're doing, then we're not understanding, and not only are we not educating ourselves, but we're not educating the people around us and having that cyclical effect, which I think is so important. Because, we can all do our own part. We don't have to wait for someone else, right?
Yeah,
To just to blindly trust someone else. We don't have to wait for someone else to affect change. Like, we can all be involved.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, so tell us a little bit more about how and why you started Rise the Movement.
Oh, okay. Great question. Great question. So, there's layers upon that, right?
Hmm.
Really, I don't know if I told you this or not, but about 13 years ago, I was the managing director of a private investing group, right? And so think all, sorry, everybody, but that's listening to this,
I
but
know exactly
male,
where you're going.
sorry, I was the only one that looked like me. That was the only one that looked like me.
Oh,
So sorry. I hope anyone who's listening to this, that I'd hope you don't get offended.
no,
Um,
why would they be offended? It's a fact. It's a fact. And if they're offended, they just don't like the facts, and maybe they need to do something to change the facts for the future people.
yeah, yeah. So, I was the only one that looked like me. And Regina, my kids, were smaller than, right. This is 13
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And here we were talking about all these beautiful private investing opportunities, right, for those with capital. So keep in mind, right, our network was really like ones with savings, one that maybe built a company and it exited, right? Others in finance, running funds, having fun, same thing here. But there was no one that looked like me.
Hmm.
And the focus was not on impact. It was
Right.
only on financial metrics in return, right? So
Mm.
Rise, we're adding those two components in. So we've already done this, but we're just adding in the focus on women. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody that's listening, but the focus is on women because no one ever came. The women didn't come 13 years ago, and it's a mindset and a movement for us as women, right? Because this is new. So we are 75% of the purchasers of our households, which means that we're buying things, right? And we're also, 80% of the philanthropists, which means that we're blindly giving, right? Without looking at
Hmm.
business plans, without looking at, due diligence information. We're just blindly writing checks, right?
Right.
That's what I mean when I say blindly doing things.
Hmm.
So we can convert that, right, to how we from being purchasers and being blindly giving to being impact investors. Then how different would our world look? How different would the next generation look? Because we're educating and we're teaching them. So that's the first reason why, is because this is not my first rodeo. It's not, and it looked very different 13 years ago. So I have a vision, right, with me and our Rise team and company, that we build something that's different, that it is inclusive, that it is, the focus is on women and educating women and empowering women, right? And we're sharing these things, whether you participate or not, it doesn't matter. But maybe, just maybe, right? Whether you decide to invest, maybe you can open up an introduction for a woman who's a first-time fund manager, right? For a woman who, is creating this great business like we had in Rise, 80% food waste and turned into beautiful luxury leathers, right? We did have a lot of women that invested in her. But just maybe, right? We could be the ones that, kind of really, support real estate with affordable rents for teachers and militaries and police that are priced out of the markets of beautiful communities. And maybe
Amen. Amen to that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and we grow our money. It's still the same. We're not blindly giving. No, we're growing. Impact investing is, I do believe, philanthropy, right? Yes, some things you can't do, but impact investing is really the new way because you can keep giving, right?
Yeah.
So, if you invest in this beautiful water and sanitation fund, again, this is not Rise, but we invite and vet, you know, um, beautiful companies that have these opportunities. I'm just going to give you this one quick example because it's amazing, right? So we as investors, we grow our money, but then on the other side, like, they're bringing clean water to remote villages, right? And those women are taking those out in the form of microloans and paying those loans back at
Yeah.
99%.
Yeah.
So maybe, just maybe, we can affect, clean water in remote villages. Oh, and also grow our money. And also we can keep doing it, right? And also we're getting educated. So that is why women in impact, right? Because I couldn't do it 13 years ago. And then the second reason is I always wanted this education, and it wasn't really until I got in that private investing group, right, that I saw all of the things and all the ways that no one just talks about, right?
Yeah.
And then I really started, just kind of went on this tranche, of educating, because it was beyond my, MBA, with a really heavily focus on finance. And even like that 13 years ago, when I wrote an article published by the Journal of Private Equity called Changing the Game of Venture Capital, I'm so embarrassed. There's not one woman that I used for my private equity journal piece that was in that article.
Right.
Now it's different. We've got some
Yeah.
women-owned VC funds that, are part of the community of Rise that I can refer. But 13 years ago, I didn't have that. So,
Oh, well, it's
yeah.
good. We're going in the right direction, at least. That's, progress is good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Progress is good. Progress is good. Progress is needed. And so it just takes, if we can just do a little bit during our time on earth, which is what I'm doing, which is what, how beautifully you're doing, with your podcast as well. If we can just spend, a little bit of our time, right? I happen to be spending a lot of it because I am passionate about this. It's like kids and empowering women to,
I love it. I love it. You're doing a fantastic job, and I'm amazed at all that you have accomplished. I'm so impressed.
Oh, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. But if we together, right, I think it's so good, because I think it's good for us as women to see there's another woman and there's another
Absolutely.
woman,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we're talking about, things that are traditionally like, well, I don't really know, my partner handles that, or somebody else handles it, right? Or what I've heard women say, oh, I'm not an investor, I'm a business owner. And it just hurts my heart, because I'm like, you're investing in yourself, right? You're investing your time and your capital in yourself
Yeah.
because you expect a return, right?
Yes.
And so even if we're investing in, public equities or public markets by ourselves or with an advisor or through a planner, or however we're doing it, we're still investing in companies, right?
Yes.
That we expect to grow, right? So, yes, it is a mindset shift for us. And by the work that you and I are doing little by little, if we move the needle, it'll be that much better. I have two teen girls, Kara and Jessica, right, that are 15 and, going on 17. And if we can just do it both little by little, then we can slowly start to affect change for these young women that are coming up.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you on that. I have a 17, my youngest is a 17-year-old girl, and oh, the pain of 17, 15-year-old girls. We're right in the trenches with you on that one.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All the challenges they're facing, we feel as well. So that's it's good that you're giving them this positive education and mentoring, that's one more positive thing that they can think about versus going through the teenage tough years
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
girls, for
Yeah,
girls.
I'll detract for a little bit because there's a great Harvard study on that, right? Like, how do kids kind of fare best? And sometimes you think, like, I think, like, oh, my mom stayed at home with us, et cetera. But because my dad was so strongly in, as a woman, you have the power to make change. What you and I are doing by showing the example and setting the example, right? We're just not speaking it, we're showing it,
Yeah.
and modeling it. And there's no, it actually shows that these kids tend to actually do perform slightly better, right?
Good.
And yes, they do. They do. They do. Yeah. So we're modeling it and they're seeing it. And as I said before, whether they're, saying they, are listening or not, they're hearing what we say. And I do believe like this is the best thing we can do is we can model it through example.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if our listeners want to learn more about you and what you're doing and your movement, where would they go to learn more?
Yeah, so it's called risethemovement.com, right? Really simply, risethemovement.com. That's our website. But yes, definitely connect with us. so that way you can see, because we create a lot of media around this, and that's really important, because the more you hear it, the more it becomes like second nature to you, right?
Absolutely.
And then that's how you connect. And then I love, right, any women that are aligned with the goal of helping and supporting other women, and educating them through the impact that they can make. So I'm so glad that we did this today, and I welcome you into our fold, right? So that way we can continue to connect with other women that can walk alongside them and help them, right? So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
absolutely. All day long, all day long. Now we indirectly spoke about the challenges of women in the professions that we're in. So I'm going to ask you instead, I'm going to ask you what's your vision of retirement, which, obviously you have to get in the time machine many, many years from now. But what are your thoughts on retirement and your vision of it?
Yeah. My vision of retirement, right? So, I led kind of with talking about the kids. I just really feel like if I don't do that right, and turn them into positive, contributing members of society in a well way, then what,
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
like it doesn't matter what business I've exited or what I'm building, it doesn't matter. So that is really important, right? To kind of see them thrive and flourish in their way, right? And to continue the work, right?
Absolutely.
So outside of that, right? That's first. Outside of that, right? I love, as I've grown, I love nature. I don't know how you are, but there's nothing like getting up to a beautiful lake, right? Or an ocean, and I have my computer and my coffee with all of my things in it, right? Because I'm 47 now, but there's nothing more beautiful than that. And then to spend the morning, to me, really kind of thinking on the change that I want to affect, because I do that, every single morning. So that's what retirement looks like for me, right? It will never stop, because I'm so passionate about educating women in this way. So,
Mhm.
and building community where they can connect wherever they are, right? Because we're all at different levels, and that's beautiful and okay. But I do want to spend my mornings doing that. I'm so clear on that. I do want to spend my mornings with my laptop, empowering and educating women in this way and bringing them together. Right now, after that, right, then that's where, I totally am a hands-on investor. So I would kind of go around, and I'll probably likely have two small places if you want me to be really authentic, and share that with you. Yeah, so I'll have a home base, and then I'll have another kind of small, and I'll kind of go back and forth. That's really how I really envision living, like wherever the kids are. And then, someplace kind of off of that water, someplace, something that's not a lot to manage, because I don't want to spend my time there. I don't want to spend my time managing that.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
you know, I
Yeah,
want to spend
no.
my time educating and empowering, right? And, kind of really enjoying the fruits of the work, and then teaching the children how to continue on this legacy. That's
Yeah.
how I want to spend my time. I'm so clear on that. Yeah.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So there were so many action items I'm thinking of from our conversation today, but I'm going to ask you what you think from our conversation would be a good action item for people. And I'm going to see if I'm going to tell you mine, but I'm going to let you say first what your action item would be from this conversation
Yeah.
for our
So
listeners.
always first step, right, is to think about what change you want to see in the world and where you want to have an impact, right? So, in fact, we do that on this back end platform we're building out at the impact investing community. So, number one, is it education? Is it health? Is it water and sanitation? Is it infrastructure, right? Is it gender equality? So think about those types of things, like UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? I don't know if you know what those are or not, but really think about those things, and then start to check those boxes. That's always the first step. What change do you want to see in the world? Because that will be your guiding light of why, right? And then depending on where you're at financially, that starts with A, your purchasing decisions, B, your bank, right? Because your banks are investing your money. They're taking that interest rate and they're investing it. C, like in the public markets, right? Whether you're investing by yourself or with an advisor or with, a planner, however you're doing it, right? And then when you take it up a step, a notch, when you're looking at private opportunities, right? And you have a diverse portfolio. So, but it always starts with, what change do you want to see in the world? And then what do you need, right?
Yeah.
Because everything can be achieved, even passive income, even tax benefits, even high impact, medium return, right? Those are the kind of the four qualifiers that we use on our platform. And then you can just kind of structure depending on where you're at from a savings and what you need. But it starts with what change do you want to affect in the world? And then we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Though, all right. So I skipped the first step, which I'm so glad I asked you. And I went right to the second step of, the companies that you're doing business with and the banks looking at who's running them and are
Yeah.
there people in executive management or on the board that look
Yes.
or feel like you? And do
Yes.
you want to support those companies that do not?
Right.
So, because that can send a big message as more and more people do that. So I think we hit them all at that point,
Yes.
or as
Yes.
many
Yes.
as we can. Yeah, we're only
As
supposed to have
many as they.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's only, action item. You're not supposed to have too many, but they're all good. So
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Love
was lovely.
it.
That was
Yeah.
lovely.
Well, I am so excited we did this. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I can't wait to continue to follow you and all the amazing things that you're doing.
I cannot wait to continue to do more work together, right? That's what this is about, when we're aligned, we can accomplish more together. So I'm excited, Regina. I'm excited
Yeah.
for the things that we will do for women. Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, you're welcome. And thanks everyone for listening to us. I hope you listened to every morsel of information here. It was jam-packed and excellent. Um, Again, I'm Regina McCann Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. My website is forgewealth.com. You can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Insta at Forge Wealth, and on LinkedIn, Regina McCann Hess. Go make it a great day.